Hey guys, just doing an update video. I wanted to talk about my most recent trip down to Peru. I just got back on Friday. I went down in 2019 for ayahuasca at Blue Morpho. This time I went to SpiritQuest. It's a different retreat, but it's also in Iquitos, Peru. I went down there this time for Huachuma. Huachuma is a cactus medicine. The psychoactive alkaloid found in the cactus is mescaline, which is the same compound found in peyote. Peyote, the cactus, is native to northern Mexico and southern Texas, whereas Huachuma, or San Pedro, is found in the Andes Mountains in Peru. Yeah, I just want to make a video while the events are still fresh in the mind. It's very different from ayahuasca. I think most people hear about ayahuasca. Not many people talk about Huachuma. More people know it by San Pedro. San Pedro was the name given to it by the Catholic Church after it was taken and used for Catholic rituals. But Huachuma, as it was originally named, is the more gentle psychedelic, I must say. Ayahuasca, they say that if you want to sum it up in one word, per SpiritQuest, they say the word is confrontation. Ayahuasca is a very aggressive medicine, but Huachuma was not aggressive. It was very... Huachuma actually helped me understand peyote. When I did peyote with the Native American Church, I had heard so much about it, inaccurate things, of course, but it wasn't what I expected at all. I almost felt like it didn't have much of an effect at all. It wasn't until after the fact, in hindsight, that I realized that it's just a different medicine and it works in different ways. They say if you want to give one word to Huachuma or peyote, the word is clarity. It's a very lucid experience. You are completely aware and in touch with your environment the entire time, unlike ayahuasca or higher dose like mushroom or acid trips, where you can lose touch with your body, you can lose touch with your surroundings, you can lose touch with what's actually happening around you. But with Huachuma and peyote, you are very in the present, you're very in the now. And the way I had heard the experience of Huachuma is that when other people talked about it, it was described as it would put challenges in front of you all day long, and they're basically pass or fail tests. And it's kind of odd the way that it does it. Ayahuasca those were nighttime ceremonies, and they were around 5 hours. I mean, obviously you were still under the effects after the ceremony, but the ceremonies were about 5 hours. Whereas Huachuma, on the days that we took it, we didn't eat lunch. We would fast because we would take it at 12:30. And I want to say it was like it was an 8-hour day, it was a 12-hour trip, and then it was like a 16-hour, like you were still up into the early morning. It was really hard to sleep on the days we took Huachuma, which we only had 3 ceremonies. They call them masadas. It's a different experience. With ayahuasca, you drink it and you sit in ceremony and you have that experience, and the experience is inside of that ceremony while it's happening, and then it's over. Whereas Huachuma, we have a ceremony where we enter the medicine, where you do the medicine in that hut. It's called the maloka. We enter the maloka and we take the medicine. Our shaman, her name is Selva, who facilitated our Huachuma masadas. She would bring us in. She would talk about the purpose of each masada, what we were to expect, and she would, fix our cup for us, and we would drink it. And it was a hollowed out coconut husk. But you would drink it and it was gross. It wasn't quite as gross as Aya, but it still tasted pretty bad. Like it was really ruddy, really bitter, earthy, like drinking mud. It was not the best tasting stuff I've ever had. But it takes a while to kick in. I would say about 2 hours before you even start to, I mean, for me at least, before you even start to feel that it's coming on, that you're now in a different state of consciousness. And it was just a completely different experience. I'm struggling to find words to describe it, because I don't think there's much to say other than it was an introspective experience. It was a lot of deep thinking for me, which adverse to what Silva was telling us that we should let Huachuma do, is to get us out of the mind, to be in the present, to quote unquote be here now. We would drink the medicine and then we would immediately leave, for a ride in the boat down the river. And the first 2 days we went and visited these tribes that were kind of on the outskirts of Iquitos. They don't take part in the city life. They really did just have like huts on sticks and minimal clothing, and like they were tribes, like full-on tribes. But they're friendly tribes. They're friends of Selva's and they're friends to SpiritQuest. So whenever they facilitate these ceremonies, these masadas, they bring them down to see the tribes, and the tribes love it because they get to see all the different people that come through. And sometimes people, buy gifts or things that the tribes make, so the currency helps them a little bit. So the first day we went down there, we saw the Ayamas tribe. I guess they came from Ecuador recently. They fled Ecuador because warring tribes were coming through and causing mayhem, so they went to Peru. And the Ayamas are known for their open ceremonial crematorium funerals, I guess. They were super nice. They were welcoming. They didn't speak a lick of English, obviously, but they were welcoming. They gave us hugs, they danced, and they sung for us. All the while, we're completely blasted on Huachuma. And there was the other big difference, too, between the experiences. When I went to Blue Morpho for Aya, there was like a good, I want to say like 35 people. It was a big group. And with this Huachuma retreat, there was only myself and 2 other people. And then Selva, our shaman. There's one guy from Germany, his name was Wolf, and a girl, Monica, from, I want to say Miami. Either she's from Miami or she lives in Miami, but it was just us 3. Monica had stayed for the ayahuasca retreat just the week prior. So Wolf and I showed up, we met her, and the first day, I won't say who, but one of the 2, they kind of had an issue. I guess the Huachuma was kind of getting in their head a little bit, and I guess dredging up some uncomfortable feelings for that individual. So the first day was kind of keeping an eye on that person and making sure that we held space for that person to help them get through that experience that they were trying to ride out. But we socialized with the tribe, and we went back home, and which means we just took the boat on the river and went back to the sanctuary, which is where we slept and stayed. It's basically like a giant adult theme park treehouse. It was just a very elaborate place that Don Howard, the guy that founded SpiritQuest, and he passed recently, and that was Selva's father. So she took over. So that's why she's running it. And she's only 19, but the girl is all about that medicine. Like, she knows what she's doing. My hat's off to her. That's a tough job, walking in those shoes. But I mean, she holds it up. So, and I was honored to meet her. That was really nice. But we took that boat ride back. We get back to the sanctuary, and we have enough time to change, shower, and we head out by the Huachuma Maloka, and we basically we have quiet time, I guess you could call it. We sit outside. Selva advises us, it's not time for talking, it's just time to be. So we go out there, then the medicine elevates in intensity all day. So we're sitting out there, and the first day I had a decent amount of closed eye visuals. And it was actually my lowest dose too. Every day we progressively took more, judging based on how we handled the medicine the day prior. So the first day I had half a cup, and I had the most visuals that day, as far as lights and geometric patterns. And when you close your eyes, you can hear the jungle, you can hear the crickets and the chirping and the birds. And when you listen to all that at once, the frequencies resonate in your head and they kind of align, and you can start to see fractals kind of dancing with what you're hearing. So for anyone who's never had closed-eyed visuals or had psychedelic, they're not hallucinations, but alterations in your perception. That's what that was. And that was kind of cool. I mean, most people like tripping just for the visual effects, but if anything, it was just something there to, I guess, focus on while trying to just keep a clear mind, which was, I think, the easiest the first day, because I was just more attentive to feeling the medicine, because I'd never had this medicine before. Peyote is similar, but they do have, just like proteins have amino profiles, different psychedelic plants have psychedelic profiles. So though they both contain mescaline, the main psychoactive alkaloid, or molecule, there's still other components that give Huachuma versus peyote their own personalities. So again, I'd had peyote, I'd never had Huachuma. But we went every other day. So day one, Earth Masada, and then the next day was off. I think you need the day off because it helps to get sleep. Because it keeps you up. It kept me up until 4 a.m. every day. But the second Masada, the first Masada was the water Masada, spirit of the water. The second Masada was the earth Masada, spirit of the earth. And I think it was a full cup that day. If it wasn't a full cup, it was just under. But and that day we took another boat ride to see a different tribe, and I had less visuals that day. I almost had no visuals. Selva did tell us that the medicine would work in a different way each time, and it does. It's weird. It gives you the body high is pretty strong. I felt heavy. It was laborious to breathe. It was just, it wasn't hard. It just I felt like I could feel the actual effort that my body exerts when I do anything. Eating was hard. Walking was exhausting. Just you had energy, but you could feel your body exerting that energy. But it was a lot of deep introspection for me, honestly. It made me think about things. It made it difficult for me to get out of my head. I'd reflect on stuff in my life, and I almost felt like I'm so used to plant ceremonies and plant medicine ceremonies being intense and kind of like an ass kicking that to me it felt foreign that it wasn't an ass kicking. And I talked to Selva about that, and she said, but if you're not suffering, then there's nothing to heal, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think I did a lot of my healing already when I did Aya. Aya completely changed me as a person. And a lot of my individual use with, mushrooms, acid, MDA, I've treated a lot of my own issues. So any issues that I do have, I'm already well aware of them, and I guess I'm just exploring new territory as opposed to healing any trauma anymore. So yeah, it was just intense reflection, honestly. And then we came back to, I'm sorry, we took the boat out. We saw another tribe. I did forget the name of this tribe. I couldn't even pronounce it when they told it to me, but they were also super nice. They had a cool little village, like a super little village. It was like maybe 7 huts, and it was like divided by an arm of the Amazon basin, and there's kids out there, and the kids were super excited to run up to us and hug us when we got there. They were all about it. And they danced for us too. Their dance was cool. It was kind of catchy. And it was one of the things that caught me off guard was both tribes, like as they're performing and they're dancing, they're going in a circle and they reach out to grab you, and like it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's rude, but you'd be the bump on the log if you didn't jump up and join them. So we all did that. I'm not a dancer. That's definitely not my element. So that was, I guess, a little mini challenge for me. But I mean, their version of dancing is just moving. So you just get up and you move with them, and they're singing. So it was cool. And it was brief, maybe like 5 minutes, but we did that. And again, you're just very in the now. You're very aware of your surroundings. You can like feel the energy of the jungle. Like you can always sense it when you're sober, but when you take something like Huachuma, there's just no filter between you and all that energy from the jungle anymore. So you can really feel it. You can feel the heat. You can feel the moisture. You can all the chirping and the buzzing, and it's a very alive place to be when you are extra sensory, like acute and aware. So met the second tribe, went back home. Now, at the end of the first Masada, the closing, there was like an opening ceremony where you drink it, you go through the day, and then there's a closing part of the ceremony where we meet back in the Maloka. And the first day, we were like basically introduced to the altar, and they called their altar the Axis Mundi. And there's skulls and candles, like they're real human skulls. There's 3 male prior shamans skulls on the right hand side, and there's 3 female shaman skulls on the left hand side. And you go in there, and if you're within arm's reach of the Axis Mundi, you keep 2 fingers on the altar at all times as you move about it, just to maintain that connection with the altar, with the medicine, with the ceremony. And the first day, all we did basically was get familiar with the Axis Mundi, and these clay-made, very nicely furbished little like things you blow into. They're whistles, and they're pretty high pitched. And we basically just got on different sides of the altar and blew the whistles and quote unquote exchanged energy. You can be into that or not, doesn't matter. But when you're blasted on Huachuma, you feel connected to whatever you're doing. So on the second closing ceremony, though, we walk in there and there's purge buckets all around it, and I was like, fuck, like I know where this is going. Like part of plant medicine ceremonies is purging, puking or spitting or anything that your body doesn't want anymore. It's getting rid of it. And there's buckets, and those buckets are iconic. They're like they look like big dog bowls. So those are all scattered about at the base of the Axis Mundi, and Selva points those out and says, you guys aren't done purging yet. And I was like, great, I don't feel like puking, so what the fuck are we doing? Basically, that little ceremony was called Singaro, which is where she has this solution that is like tobacco soaked in like sugarcane fermented alcohol, and like a few other things that I forgot. She was basically like, I'm gonna give you 3 seashells, one at a time. I'm gonna fill it with this solution, and you're gonna pour it into each nostril. And you can do like a little, or pour it however you need to get it in there, but it burns like a son of a bitch. And you can't swallow it because it immediately makes you sick. So she said, don't get it down your throat because you will throw up. So I tried not to do that. But you're supposed to keep it like all up in here in the sinuses, and it clears that shit out. And again, if you're into the woo-woo stuff, it's basically, she said, you're cleaning your crown chakra. So we did that. You take that 1 seashell and you get like half in each nostril, and then you are at the altar. You're still high as fuck from the Huachuma, and you're just like burning, sinus is burning, eyes are watering, mucus is coming up, going down into your spit bucket, and you're standing at the axis moving with your fingers, just hovering over your bucket, and it's like 10 minutes in between each shell. And we stood there for probably half hour, just snot pouring out. And every 10 minutes would go by, she'd have this instrument, she would ding it, and she would say, next shell. And we would, get off the altar and then go to her, and she'd pour another shell, and you would do it, be all fucked up, go back to your spot. And again, we did that 3 times, and burned more each time. And then she says, since there's only 3 of you, and it is close to Christmas, and because we love you, does anyone care for a 4th shell? And of course, the kind of people that show up to plant medicine ceremonies are the people that want to do work, and I think are a little masochistic, so of course we all volunteered. So we laughed as we're suffering, snoveling over these buckets, just spitting our guts out. So that was the closing of the second Huachuma Masada. And then on the 3rd day, I don't know how much people usually get, but Selva said there was special occasions where somebody gets more than 1 cup. And she looked at me the night before because we would talk about it. We'd have like the Huachuma day, and then the day after we'd have like, in the evening we'd talk about that day's experience and kind of volley our experience back with Selva, and she would talk to us about it. But because she's done the medicine something stupid like 90 times now. But again, this girl's 19. She's done Huachuma probably 90 times. She is doing the medicine with us every time, or with everybody whenever she does the medicine. She does the medicine whenever she runs a group through it too. So she's under the effects as well, and she's still running the ceremonies. And she's done I think like 55 times, and she's also done Vilca, which I'll talk about at the end. But the 3rd Masada day, the air Masada, Grandfather Sky, she said it was a special circumstance. Sometimes people get more than 1 cup, and I was afforded the opportunity to have a cup, and I believe a 1/3 of another cup, and that was just hard to drink. That made me immediately nauseous. But that day, like, no visuals. I mean, obviously, like, visual acuity was adjusted, but it wasn't tripping. But again, it was just the body fatigue was super heavy. My joints just felt thick, and it was exhausting, and just heavy thoughts all day. We did not go to see a tribe on the 3rd day. We took the boat out again and found a spot out in the middle of nowhere, and they just turned the boat off. And one of the key things I took away from this sanctuary or this retreat was that silence is not uncomfortable unless you make it uncomfortable. And Selva was all about just always being around and never talking. She's just there. Sometimes less is more, I guess, when it comes to speech. But we just went out to a point in the water and we just kind of sat there. And I was like, okay, well, I guess we're just gonna sit out here. And again, like, you learn to just be okay with everything, regardless of what's happening. If you're getting eaten alive by mosquitoes, fuck it. That's what's happening now. That's your life. Deal with it. And I did like one of the things she said that, you know, some people come out here and they take the medicine and then we go to these beautiful places and they see the tribes and the tribes are interacting with them and the people are like, I can't focus, like the mosquitoes are too much. And she said, some people will just come out here and they just bitch about the mosquitoes and their whole experience is just about mosquitoes. So that was like an easy to understand little piece of advice. Like, if you go through your life just focusing on mosquitoes, then your whole fucking life is just about mosquitoes. So just whatever's happening, just deal with it. We parked out in the water. I wasn't necessarily comfortable. Like, the body high kind of sucked. I felt nauseous. It was just deep thought. Like, I don't do that enough already. And I was just like baking in the sun. And yeah, I'd been lit up by mosquitoes the past 2 days from the tribes walking through the forest. So it was like not ideally comfortable, but I mean, if this is what Huachuma is, then I guess this is what we're doing. We're doing work. So I just sat with it. Just sit with the medicine. And whatever comes up, observe it, let it go. You know, those old mantras they talk to you about meditation. But I think we were out there for about an hour. We turned around, went back to the sanctuary, and we went on a nature walk into the thick of the jungle of SpiritQuest property. So it was like this long back trail, and it was gorgeous. Like, walking through the Amazon's pretty dope. Surprising to me that you can just be out in the fucking rainforest, like in the Amazon, like where big shit lives and scary shit lives. Like, we're just out there. No protection from anything. If anything were to come up on us, we're just walking. We walk this trail and it goes around the back lining of the property, and we come up to, they have this thing called the star deck, which is kind of cool. And it's like this long, you approach it from two ways, from the sanctuary or like the backside that we hiked up around. But when you come out the path, the mouth opens into like a long green walkway up a hill where you can see the star deck, which is like this nicely made up, bricked and like marble area with a centerpiece, and I forgot what the centerpiece is called, but it's all carved out. I posted pictures of it. We went up there, and basically she turned to us and she said, you know, for the rest of the evening, you know, the sanctuary is your playground. Feel free to do whatever you want to do for the evening. You can stay up here on the star deck. We're just out here to enjoy life, basically. I mean, you're convening with Grandfather Huachuma. You have the medicine in you. You're in Peru. You're in the Amazon. Like, a lot of people would say that's ideal. You know, it's the last day, so everyone was just quiet and enjoyed the peace and the innate beauty of things. And then sunset started coming around, and we headed in to shower and change and meet again outside of the Huachuma Maloka for our quiet time. All day has been quiet, but you just get used to being quiet. And again, we just listened to the jungle till it got dark, and then at the end of quiet time, you can hear Selva after she sets the stage in the Maloka. You know, she calls out, you know, brothers and sisters, please join us in the Maloka. So we meet in there and we have another ceremony, and it wasn't Vilca. Traditionally, SpiritQuest does Vilca on the closing Masada, the day 3 ending. And Vilca is a snuff. It's bufotenine, I believe, and NN-DMT and 5-MeO-DMT all put together and in a pipe, and you snort it, and from what I've heard, it feels like a railroad spike up your nose, and then you do it on the other side, and they basically say, hey, you should probably go back to your room now, and you need to hustle because the stuff kicks in quick. And there's this fucking long ass bridge between the Huachuma Maloka and like your sleeping quarters. And they said sometimes people that were not quick about it, like just got halfway across the bridge and just fell and like had their experience on the bridge. I wouldn't say that's ideal. They call Vilca the bridge between life and death because if you know anything about Bufo or DMT, especially 5-MeO, you know that those substances supersede all other psychedelics, and when you mix them up and snort them, I can only fucking imagine, but they call it the bridge between life and death. You don't actually die, but your ego does temporarily. You have no sense of self. You're completely dissolved into consciousness, and that's a scary feeling for somebody who doesn't want to die, to come to terms with dying, and then the after, and you get to see what consciousness is, and you get to peek behind the veil, like the whole mystery of psychedelics. Like, go do Vilca, you'll find out. Unfortunately, Don Howard was the only one qualified to administer the Vilca, and after he passed, there is no one else at SpiritQuest that is qualified to administer or facilitate that ceremony anymore. So we did not have the chance. We were not afforded the luxury of the Vilca ceremony. So we got to do rapé instead. Rapé is also a snuff. It's very uncomfortable. There was peppermint, eucalyptus, cinnamon, peppermint, eucalyptus, cinnamon, and like petty is some jungle plant. And how rapé works is she's got this long pipe, looks like a peace pipe, and at the end there's like 2 ducts, and she takes these ducts and she fills them with whatever snuff you're about to do. And she says the difference between Singado and rapé is you're not doing it to yourself, I'm doing it to you. So she would load it and she would hold it up to you and get the 2 prongs like right up in your nose. And you would hold your breath, and she would say, "Are you ready?" And you say, "Yeah, huh." And then she goes, and it fucking jet streams this shit. It feels like it hits the back of your head, and it like. She said, "Don't worry if you swallow it. It's not gonna make you throw up, but it will taste so bad that you will want to vomit, and you gag because it." Like immediately it shoots through your sinuses, into your mouth, the fucking back of your head, behind your orbitals, and you cough and it's just powder. And now you're just coated with this irritant. And again, there's fucking purge buckets everywhere. So we saw those right when we came in and we're like, great, we're gonna do this again. But you go to your altar, you find your spot, fingers on the altar. And I swear it was like 15 minutes in between. We had to do 4 of these initially. We ended up doing 5 again. I did an extra one, but we did them all. She would blow, it would hurt, and then I don't know why it just made you start spitting, and like phlegm it's an irritant, and you get congested, and then you either spit it out or it goes down your throat and you gag and you cough it out. Like it's just. And it was kind of like a training in focus, because again, you're still you're very under the effects from the Huachuma. You're in a dark Maloka at nighttime now, only lit by candlelight, with skulls and bones and all kinds of obscure things on this table. Tapestries that look kind of ominous, flickering in the candlelight, while you're high as a kite with now an irritant in your nose, phlegming into a bucket, trying to maintain your body and posture on this altar. Like, it's an interesting state to be in. And each round was like 15 minutes, and you just stared. It's just silent, and it's a lot of reflection. You just clear the mind. Just whatever's in your head, just throw it out. Just stand here. Just be here now and just deal with it. She said that the rapé ceremonies are usually about focus. It's working on focus. And that's basically what you do. Your feet start to hurt. Your arms feel heavy. So then you're like pushing on your fingers, and your fingers start to hurt. But so you find different ways to stand and like different parts of the table to touch, and so that was interesting. But that was really it. I mean, again, like ayahuasca was just unfathomably absurd and chaotic and life-changing, and that is why they call ayahuasca the apex medicine. Below that, on the psychedelic, what's the word I want? Hierarchy? Pantheon? There's Huachuma, peyote, other medicines, mushrooms, acid. I wouldn't say it was life-changing. It was impactful. It was memorable. I mean, I had no expectations, really. I purely went out there just to experience this medicine, to experience SpiritQuest specifically, because they are renowned for their professionalism, and they're a great place to go if you're seeking a reputable retreat for either Aya or Huachuma. And I did want to meet Don Howard, but unfortunately, because of his passing, I was not able to do so. But I did meet Selva, his daughter, and she's a great human. So I'm glad I got to meet her and work with her and work under her for the Huachuma Masadas. So yeah, I just wanted to recap it. I make a video for each one of these medicine trips. I'll have a couple more in the next couple years, but that was it. That was Huachuma. Yeah, I mean, there's more to say, but it was kind of a simple medicine, but it was good nonetheless.